The season of suffering has officially ended and a new chapter has begun. There are moments in life when you do not need fireworks or public applause to know something has shifted. You simply feel it. The weight that once sat on your chest is no longer there. The constant tension that followed you into every room has quietly disappeared. This is that moment. What you survived was not small, and it was not imaginary. It tested your patience, your confidence, and your faith in yourself. But seasons are not permanent. They are assignments with an ending, and this one has reached its conclusion. You are not standing at the edge of hope anymore. You are standing inside confirmation. The struggle that shaped your days and disturbed your nights has lost its authority over you. It does not get to repeat itself. It does not get to rehearse the same pain. You have crossed the line where endurance turns into evidence. Evidence that you are stronger than the pressure, evidence that you can outlast what tried to outlast you. This is not exaggeration, it is recognition. Something has closed, and because it has closed, something new has permission to begin. You are no longer in survival mode. You are stepping into stability. You are not bracing for impact. You are preparing for growth, and growth requires space that suffering once occupied. That space is now free. A new chapter does not mean life will never challenge you again. It means you will not face the same lesson in the same way. The chapter that has ended carried specific tests designed for a specific version of you. That version has evolved. You think differently now. You respond differently now. You recognize red flags sooner. You protect your peace more intentionally. That is proof of graduation. When a student passes an exam, the exact test is not given again. The curriculum moves forward. Your life is doing the same. The chapter ahead is not built on pain. It is built on wisdom. It is built on boundaries you learned to set. It is built on courage you discovered when you had no other option. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience. And experience is power when it is processed. This is your confirmation that the difficult stretch had an ending point. You have reached it. Breathe differently, walk differently, expect differently. The season of suffering has officially ended, and the new chapter is not waiting in the distance. It has already begun with you standing stronger than before. Pain was preparation, not punishment. There were moments when you questioned whether you had done something wrong to deserve the weight you were carrying. The delays felt personal. The disappointments felt targeted. The silence felt intentional. But preparation rarely feels comfortable while it is happening. When iron is being shaped, it must endure pressure and heat before it becomes strong enough to hold weight. In the same way, what you experienced was shaping your endurance, your patience, and your awareness. It was not designed to destroy you, it was designed to develop you. The lessons you learned were not random. They were equipping you with discernment so that you would not repeat the same patterns. They were teaching you emotional control so that temporary reactions would not sabotage permanent opportunities. Preparation stretches you beyond your current limits so that your next level does not overwhelm you. If you had skipped that season, you might have reached the next chapter without the stability to maintain it. What felt like rejection was often redirection. What felt like isolation was sometimes protection. And what felt like loss was clearing space for something aligned. The process did not come to embarrass you. It came to build capacity within you. Capacity to handle responsibility. Capacity to handle success. Capacity to handle influence without losing yourself. When preparation is misunderstood as punishment, it can create bitterness. But when you recognize its purpose, it produces maturity. Look at how you respond to pressure now compared to before. Notice how your boundaries are clearer. Notice how your tolerance for disrespect has decreased. Notice how you no longer chase validation from people who cannot value you. That is growth. That is evidence that the process was working, even when it was uncomfortable. Preparation often removes illusions. It reveals who truly supports you and who only supports convenience. It forces you to depend on your inner strength rather than external approval. And once that foundation is built, you become difficult to shake. Punishment weakens confidence. Preparation strengthens it. Punishment leaves you smaller. Preparation expands you. The season you endured refined your character so that your next opportunities will meet a wiser version of you. Do not resent what trained you. Respect it, because now you stand not as someone who survived randomly, but as someone who was intentionally prepared for what comes next. What tried to break you actually built your strength. At the time, it did not feel like strength was being formed. It felt like pressure without relief. It felt like carrying responsibilities that were heavier than your capacity. It felt like being misunderstood when you were already exhausted. But strength is rarely developed in comfort. It is developed in resistance. Every challenge that confronted you forced you to make a decision. You could either collapse under it or grow through it. And even on the days when you felt weak, you kept moving. That movement, even if it was slow, was building resilience. The criticism that once hurt you sharpened your self-awareness. The rejection that once discouraged you redirected your focus. The loneliness that once unsettled you taught you independence. Piece by piece, the pressure was constructing a stronger foundation beneath you. You did not notice it immediately because growth is often quiet. It happens internally before it shows externally. But now, when you look back, you can see the evidence. Situations that once would have shaken your confidence no longer have the same effect. Conversations that once intimidated you now feel manageable. Decisions that once confused you now feel clearer. The very weight that tried to bend you became resistance training for your character. Strength is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It reveals itself in your calm responses, in your measured words, and in your ability to walk away from what no longer aligns with you. The experiences that were meant to discourage you instead deepened your endurance. They increased your emotional intelligence. They expanded your perspective. You learned how to pause before reacting. You learned how to protect your peace without explaining yourself to everyone. You learned that your value is not dependent on external approval. That is strength, not aggression, not hardness, but stability. The breaking point you feared became a breakthrough point instead. You discovered that you are capable of handling more than you assumed, and because of that discovery, your confidence is no longer fragile. It is grounded in experience. What tried to break you underestimated your ability to adapt. It underestimated your willingness to grow. Now you stand with a quieter, deeper power, not because life was easy, but because it was difficult and you endured. Divine timing replaces delayed expectations. There was a period when you believed things should have happened sooner. You created timelines in your mind. You imagined certain doors opening at specific moments. When those expectations were not met, frustration slowly settled in. It felt like you were behind. It felt like others were moving ahead while you remained in the same place. But timing is not only about readiness of opportunity, it is about readiness of the individual. What you once called delay was often alignment taking place beneath the surface. Circumstances were shifting, priorities were adjusting, you were growing in ways that were not visible yet necessary. If certain outcomes had arrived earlier, you might not have had the clarity to handle them wisely. You might have accepted less than you deserved because you had not yet learned to recognize your value. Delay can feel uncomfortable because it forces patience. Yet patience builds discipline, and discipline protects progress. Looking back now, you can see how certain closed doors saved you from environments that would have drained you. You can see how waiting refined your desires. The timeline you were frustrated about was quietly protecting your future. Now, as alignment begins to unfold, it does not feel rushed or forced. It feels natural. It feels earned. The expectations that once felt postponed are being replaced with understanding. You realize that nothing meaningful was actually lost. It was being positioned. When timing aligns, there is less anxiety attached to outcomes. You no longer chase what is not responding. You no longer force connections that do not flow. There is a calm confidence that what belongs in your life will enter at the right moment. This does not mean you stop working or preparing. It means you release unnecessary pressure. You trust that growth and opportunity will intersect, when both are mature enough to sustain each other. Delayed expectations often create doubt, but aligned timing creates stability. You move differently when you understand that your journey is not a race against others. It is a process unique to you. Comparison loses its grip. Impatience loses its intensity. You begin to focus more on preparation than prediction, and that shift changes everything. Because when the right door opens at the right time, you step through it with readiness instead of desperation. You carry wisdom instead of insecurity. Divine timing does not rush you, and it does not ignore you. It develops you, then releases what matches your development. Emotional endurance created spiritual authority. There were days when your greatest battle was not external, it was internal. You had to manage disappointment without letting it define you. You had to control reactions when you felt misunderstood. You had to remain steady when your emotions were pulling you in different directions. That discipline was not easy. It required you to pause when you wanted to respond quickly. It required you to reflect when you wanted to escape. Emotional endurance is not about suppressing feelings. It is about processing them without allowing them to control your decisions. Every time you chose patience over impulse, you strengthened your inner stability. Every time you chose calm over chaos, you built authority within yourself. Authority is not dominance over others. It is mastery over your own reactions. The season you walked through trained you to regulate your thoughts and protect your peace. It taught you that not every situation deserves your energy. It showed you that silence can be stronger than argument. Through endurance, you developed discernment. You began to recognize patterns faster. You learned when to engage and when to step back. This quiet growth gave you a deeper presence. People may not always see the battles you fought privately, but they can sense the steadiness you now carry publicly. That steadiness is earned. It is the result of emotional strength refined through pressure. Spiritual authority grows when emotions are balanced with wisdom. You no longer react from insecurity. You respond from clarity. You no longer chase validation in moments of doubt. You stand firm in your values even when others disagree. That shift did not happen overnight. It developed through repeated moments of choosing maturity over temporary relief. Emotional endurance teaches you to observe before judging, to listen before speaking, and to protect your energy without guilt. As a result, your presence carries more weight. Your words hold more intention. Your boundaries are respected because they are consistent. Authority is not loud. It is grounded. It is felt in the way you remain composed under pressure. It is visible in the way you refuse to return to patterns that once drained you. The challenges that tested your emotions strengthened your spirit. They gave you control over impulses that once controlled you. Now you move with confidence that is not forced but formed. Emotional endurance did not harden your heart. It matured it. And through that maturity, you gained the authority to navigate future challenges with calm assurance rather than fear. The battle you survived cannot return in the same form. It may try to echo, it may attempt to appear familiar, but it will not have the same power because you are no longer the same person. Growth changes the way challenges approach you. The patterns that once caught you off guard are now easier to recognize. The words that once unsettled you no longer carry the same weight. You have developed awareness. Awareness is protection. When you walked through that difficult season, you gathered lessons that now function as shields. You learned where your limits are. You learned which environments drain you and which ones strengthen you. That knowledge alone shifts the outcome of future encounters. The same situation cannot repeat itself with the same impact because you will not respond the same way. Your boundaries are clearer, your standards are stronger, your reactions are slower and more intentional. The previous battle depended on your inexperience, it depended on your uncertainty, it depended on your willingness to tolerate what you now refuse to entertain. That version of you has evolved, so even if a similar test appears, it will meet a wiser mind and a steadier heart. This is not about avoiding all future difficulty. It is about understanding that repetition without growth is no longer your story. When a lesson is learned deeply, it transforms your instincts. You do not have to overthink every decision anymore because your discernment has sharpened. You sense misalignment earlier. You identify unhealthy dynamics sooner. You withdraw from chaos faster. That is evidence that the past battle served its purpose. It trained your perception. It strengthened your resolve. It increased your confidence in your own judgment. The challenge you survived was intense, but it refined you. Now you move with a different energy. You do not approach life from fear of repetition. You approach it from confidence in preparation. The circumstances may look similar at times, but your internal response has shifted permanently. That shift changes outcomes. The old cycle required a certain level of doubt and hesitation. That doubt no longer lives in you the same way. You have replaced it with clarity and self-respect. Because of that, what once overwhelmed you cannot overpower you again. The battle you survived closed a chapter, and with that closure comes assurance that the same test will never control your story in the same form again. Closure is confirmation of elevation. There was a time when you searched for explanations. You wanted conversations to end perfectly. You wanted clarity to arrive neatly packaged. But real closure does not always come through words. Sometimes it comes through distance. Sometimes it comes through silence. Sometimes it arrives the moment you realize you no longer feel the same attachment to what once consumed your thoughts. That shift is not accidental. It is evidence that you have risen above what used to hold you down. Elevation often requires separation. You cannot step into a higher perspective while remaining emotionally tied to a lower pattern. Closure signals that the lesson has been absorbed. The emotional charge that once surrounded certain memories begins to fade. You stop replaying scenarios in your mind. You stop rehearsing responses you will never give. That internal quiet is powerful. It shows that growth has replaced confusion. It shows that acceptance has replaced resistance. Closure is not about pretending something did not matter. It is about acknowledging that it mattered, learning from it, and deciding that it will not define your future. When you no longer feel the need to revisit what hurt you, you have elevated beyond it. Elevation changes your focus. Instead of looking backward for validation, you look forward with intention. Instead of trying to repair what consistently broke, you build what feels stable and aligned. Closure frees your energy. It releases mental space that was once occupied by overthinking. It strengthens your confidence because you realize you can move on without losing yourself. This is not emotional coldness, it is emotional maturity. You understand that every connection, every challenge, every chapter served a purpose for a season. And once that purpose is fulfilled, holding on only delays growth. Elevation is visible in your calmness. It is heard in your balanced words. It is felt in your ability to walk away without bitterness. You do not need dramatic endings to prove progress. Your peace is proof enough. Closure confirms that you have outgrown what once limited you. It confirms that your standards have evolved. It confirms that you are ready for experiences that match your current level of awareness. When something ends and you feel steady instead of shattered, that is elevation speaking quietly but confidently within you. Your next level requires a new mindset, not old fear. Growth is not only about changing circumstances, it is about changing perception. If you carry yesterday's fears into tomorrow's opportunities, you will hesitate at doors that were meant to open fully for you. The experiences you survived were real, and the caution you developed was understandable. But there is a difference between wisdom and fear. Wisdom protects you. Fear restricts you. As you step into a higher level of responsibility, influence, or stability, your thinking must expand as well. You cannot approach new opportunities with the same doubt that once kept you small. The next chapter will demand confidence in your preparation. It will require you to trust the lessons you have already learned. When challenges appear, you must respond from maturity rather than memory of past hurt. Old fear tries to convince you that history will repeat itself. A renewed mindset reminds you that you are not the same person who once struggled. You have grown, you have sharpened your discernment, you have strengthened your boundaries. Holding on to outdated fear would be like studying for an exam you have already passed. It drains energy that should be invested in progress. The next level calls for clarity, courage, and belief in your capacity to sustain success. A new mindset also means releasing the need to expect the worst. It means allowing yourself to anticipate positive outcomes without suspicion. This does not mean ignoring red flags or abandoning caution. It means refusing to sabotage healthy situations because of past disappointments. Growth requires you to upgrade your internal dialogue. Instead of saying, "What if it fails?" you begin to ask, "What if it works?" Instead of assuming rejection, you consider acceptance. This subtle shift in thinking transforms behavior. You show up more present. You communicate more openly. You take initiative instead of retreating. The next level is not only about external change, it is about internal alignment. Your thoughts must match the progress you have made. Your expectations must reflect the strength you have built. Fear once served as protection during uncertain times, but now stability is forming. Opportunity is emerging, and a stronger version of you is prepared to meet it. Embrace the new mindset fully, because the future you are stepping into cannot be sustained by the limitations of the past.